Hey everyone, Alex G here. Before we dive into today's big story about IKEA's massive transformation in China, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our business news coverage. We're bringing you the stories that matter, the analysis you need, and the insights that keep you ahead of the curve. All right, let's get into it. Good morning. Today we bring you a story that marks a significant turning point in one of the world's most ambitious retail experiments. Swedish furniture giant IKEA has announced it will close 7 of its large format stores across China, effective February 2nd, 2026. But before you interpret this as a retreat, consider this. The company is simultaneously planning to open more than 10 smaller stores in the coming years. This isn't an exit, it's a transformation. For nearly 3 decades, IKEA's iconic blue and yellow warehouse stores have been fixtures of China's urban landscape. They've been more than retail outlets, they've been cultural phenomena, weekend destinations, and symbols of middle-class aspiration. But now, facing a perfect storm of economic headwinds, changing consumer behavior, and fierce local competition, IKEA is rewriting its China playbook. Let's explore what's behind this dramatic shift and what it means for the future of retail in the world's second-largest economy. On January 8, 2026, IKEA China made the announcement that has sent ripples through the retail industry. 7 stores will cease operations on February 2nd. These aren't small outlets. They're the company's signature large-format warehouses, the kind that have defined IKEA's brand identity worldwide. The closures affect some of China's most prominent cities. In Shanghai, the Baoshan district store will shut its doors. In Guangzhou, it's the Panyu district location. Tianjin will lose its Zhongbei town store. And across eastern China, stores in Nantong and Suzhou in Jiangsu province, Ningbo in Zhejiang province, and Harbin in the northeastern province of Heilongjiang will all close. These stores were built for a different era, an era of destination shopping, where families would drive to suburban locations, spend hours browsing through carefully curated room displays, and load up their cars with flat-pack furniture. But that era is rapidly coming to an end. In their statement, IKEA China emphasized that this decision followed a comprehensive review of their retail footprint. The company stressed that China remains one of the most important and strategic markets for IKEA, and that they remain committed to long-term and healthy growth in China. But here's where the story gets interesting. While closing 7 stores, IKEA plans to open more than 10 new ones over the next 2 years. The catch? These won't be the massive warehouse-style outlets we've come to know. Instead, they'll be smaller, more targeted stores located in urban centers, specifically in Beijing and Shenzhen to start. It's not a retreat. It's a strategic recalibration. To understand why IKEA is making this move, we need to understand the economic forces reshaping China's retail landscape. And at the center of it all is China's prolonged property market slump. China's real estate sector has been in turmoil for several years now. Following a government crackdown on excessive debt in the property development industry, new home purchases have declined sharply, renovation activity has cooled, and when people aren't buying or upgrading homes, they're not buying furniture. Fan Xinyu, assistant professor of economics at Chung Kong Graduate School of Business in Beijing, explained the connection clearly. The closing of these stores is linked to economic headwinds, as well as a highly developed online sales market in China, a trend that has squeezed the survival space of physical retail outlets. The numbers paint a sobering picture. IKEA's global retail sales fell 1% in fiscal year 2025, from 45.1 billion euros to 44.6 billion euros. While China accounts for just 3.5% of IKEA's global sales, down from previous years, the market's struggles are emblematic of broader challenges. Consumer confidence in China remains fragile. Years of pandemic restrictions, followed by economic uncertainty and the property market crisis, have made Chinese consumers more cautious with their spending. The days of carefree purchasing for home furnishing projects have given way to more conservative, value-conscious buying behavior. But it's not just about the economy. It's about how and where Chinese consumers want to shop. China has become the world's most advanced e-commerce market. Online shopping isn't just an alternative to physical retail here, it's often the preferred method, and furniture is no exception. During fiscal year 2025, IKEA China's online sales rose 2%, now accounting for 25.7% of total revenue. That's a significant portion, but it's still trailing behind the broader market trend. Chinese consumers have embraced the convenience of browsing furniture on their smartphones, ordering with a few taps, and having items delivered, often within hours, directly to their doors. IKEA has recognized this shift. The company is working with JD.com, one of China's largest e-commerce platforms, to provide instant delivery services across 7 Chinese cities. This partnership aims to meet the expectations for same-day or rapid delivery that has become standard in China's e-commerce market. The company maintains 3 digital channels of its own, plus flagship stores on major e-commerce platforms. Together, these digital touchpoints reach more than 1 billion potential customers across China. That's a massive audience, far larger than any physical store network could serve. But here's the challenge. When you can browse an entire furniture catalog on your phone and have items delivered to your apartment within hours, why drive to a massive warehouse in the suburbs? The answer is experiential value, and that's where IKEA's new strategy comes in. IKEA's strategy can be summed up in 5 words: closing big stores, opening small ones. But what does that actually mean? The large format stores that are closing were designed for a different shopping paradigm. They average around 30,000 to 40,000 square meters, filled with thousands of products and elaborate room displays. They require significant parking infrastructure, substantial staff, and are typically located in suburban areas where land is cheaper. These stores made sense when the strategy was to serve everyone with everything under one massive roof, but in today's China, that model is becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. The new small format stores represent a fundamental shift in approach. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, IKEA is focusing on being precisely what specific customer segments need. These smaller stores will feature curated product selections, design consultation services, and digital ordering capabilities rather than extensive on-site inventory. The first new store is scheduled to open in Dongguan, Guangdong Province, in February 2026, the same month the 7 closures take effect. Another location in Beijing's Tongzhou district is set to open in April. Over the next 2 years, IKEA plans to open more than 10 of these compact outlets, with Beijing and Shenzhen identified as priority markets. The strategy behind this is sophisticated. By locating smaller stores in urban centers, closer to where people actually live and work, IKEA can engage with customers who live in smaller apartments and prefer frequent convenience-led shopping. These customers don't need to spend an entire afternoon at IKEA. They want to quickly check out options, maybe consult with a designer, then order online for delivery. It's about meeting customers where they are, both physically and in terms of their shopping expectations. But economic factors and digital transformation aren't the only forces driving this change. IKEA faces intense competition in China like nowhere else in the world. Local Chinese furniture retailers have become formidable competitors. Companies like Red Star McAllen and Duran Home operate vast networks of stores and have deep understanding of local preferences. But perhaps more threatening are the countless online furniture brands that have emerged on Chinese e-commerce platforms. These competitors often offer products that mimic IKEA's minimalist Scandinavian designs, but at lower prices and with faster delivery. They don't have the overhead costs of maintaining massive physical stores. They can respond quickly to trending styles and consumer feedback. And they've mastered the art of social media marketing to China's young, digitally native consumers. IKEA has responded by aggressively cutting prices. Between 2000 and 2018, the company reduced its prices in China by approximately 60%. The famous Lac table, which initially sold for 120 yuan, was eventually priced at just 39 yuan. In fiscal year 2025, IKEA committed 20 million euros specifically to further price reductions in China, with plans to reduce prices on more than 150 products. But price cuts alone aren't enough. When you can buy similar-looking furniture online for even less with free delivery and no need to assemble it yourself, IKEA's traditional value proposition, good design at low prices, becomes less compelling. This is why the company is betting on experience. The things that can't be replicated online, touching fabrics, seeing colors in person, getting personalized design advice, and experiencing how furniture actually looks and feels in a room setting. There's another layer to this story that's distinctly Chinese, the cultural role that IKEA stores have played over the past 2 decades. When IKEA first arrived in Shanghai in 1998, it brought with it a vision of modern, Western-style living that fascinated China's emerging middle class. The stores became more than shopping destinations. They became cultural institutions. It wasn't uncommon to see elderly residents napping on display beds, treating the air-conditioned stores as community gathering spaces. Young couples would spend entire dates wandering through room displays, imagining their future lives together. Families would make a day of it, browsing for hours before settling into the cafeteria for Swedish meatballs. For China's millennials, IKEA was where they furnished their first apartments after college. It represented independence, modern taste, and affordable quality. The brand carried significant cultural cachet. But that generation has matured. China's Gen Z consumers have different expectations. They've grown up with smartphones in their hands and have never known a world without instant e-commerce. The novelty of spending an afternoon at a big box store holds less appeal. Meanwhile, Chinese consumers across all age groups have become more sophisticated and demanding. They want products tailored to Chinese aesthetics and living spaces, not just European designs adapted for local markets. They expect seamless integration between online and offline shopping. They value convenience above almost everything else. IKEA has tried to adapt. The company has increased its local sourcing, with Chinese suppliers producing a significant portion of its goods. It has adjusted store layouts to reflect Chinese apartment configurations, including balcony sections that wouldn't exist in Western stores. It has invested heavily in its Chinese food offerings, recognizing that the restaurant is a crucial part of the store experience. But fundamentally changing a business model built over decades is challenging. The large format store strategy worked brilliantly in many markets. Abandoning it feels risky. Yet in China's rapidly evolving retail landscape, maintaining the status quo might be the riskiest strategy of all. IKEA's pivot in China has implications far beyond one Swedish furniture company. It's a bellwether for the entire international retail industry operating in China. Other Western retailers have already learned painful lessons in this market. Home Depot withdrew completely from China in 2012, closing all its stores. B&Q closed 42 of its 63 Chinese stores in 2017, citing the housing slump. These weren't small players. They were global giants who found that their home country strategies simply didn't translate to the Chinese market. What makes IKEA's approach noteworthy is that it's not giving up. The company is actively investing in China, but on dramatically different terms. This represents a new model for how international retailers might succeed in China: smaller footprints, digital-first strategies, and hyper-localization. Industry analyst Liu Dingding explained it this way. The strategy makes IKEA more market-oriented. Much like a small vessel can swiftly respond to market shifts, this move allows IKEA to better align with end users' needs, signaling a major transformation in the industry. This small vessel metaphor is apt. In turbulent waters, agility matters more than size. IKEA is essentially making itself more nimble, more able to respond to local market conditions and changing consumer preferences. The approach also reflects a broader trend in retail, the shift from scale-based expansion to what IKEA calls precision-driven market penetration. Instead of maximizing the number and size of stores, the focus is on strategically placing stores where they'll have the most impact, supported by robust digital infrastructure. Behind these strategic decisions are real people whose lives will be affected. Thousands of IKEA employees across these 7 stores will face uncertain futures as their workplaces close. IKEA has stated that it will offer full support to affected employees, though specific details haven't been disclosed. In China's competitive job market, particularly for retail workers, such transitions can be challenging. These employees had built careers, formed relationships, and developed expertise in their roles. Now they must find new paths forward. For customers in these cities, the closures mean losing familiar shopping destinations. While IKEA says customers will continue to be served through nearby stores and digital channels, it's not quite the same. There's something irreplaceable about having a physical store in your city, particularly one that has been a community fixture for years. The Baoshan IKEA in Shanghai, for instance, has served that district's residents for years. For many families, it was the place they went for affordable furniture solutions. Now they'll need to travel to other locations or adapt to online shopping. These human dimensions of the story often get lost in discussions of strategy and market forces, but they're real, and they matter. So where does IKEA go from here in China? The company's plans suggest a multi-pronged approach. First, there's the expansion of small format stores, with 10 or more planned over the next 2 years. These will be concentrated in high-priority markets like Beijing and Shenzhen, with the potential to expand to other cities if the model proves successful. Second, there's the continued investment in digital infrastructure. IKEA is putting significant resources into its website, mobile app, WeChat mini program, and e-commerce platform presence. The goal is to create a seamless omni-channel experience where customers can move effortlessly between digital and physical touchpoints. Third, there's the focus on price competitiveness. The company plans to invest 160 million yuan in developing over 150 lower-priced products, with 70% of these focusing on core bestsellers. This represents a boutique-scale standardization approach, offering a curated selection of products that truly resonate with target customers rather than trying to stock everything for everyone. Fourth, there's the partnership strategy. Working with companies like JD.com for logistics and delivery allows IKEA to tap into established infrastructure rather than building everything from scratch. It's a recognition that in China's fast-moving market, strategic partnerships can be more effective than going it alone. But perhaps most importantly, there's a mindset shift. IKEA is learning to think differently about what success looks like in China. It's not about having the most stores or the biggest warehouses. It's about having the right presence in the right places, supported by the right capabilities. IKEA's story in China tells us something important about the nature of globalization in the 21st century. The era of one-size-fits-all global strategies is ending. What works in Sweden, Germany, or the United States doesn't necessarily work in China, India, or Brazil. Successful global companies increasingly need to be locally adaptive while maintaining core brand values. They need to balance standardization with customization. They need to be simultaneously global and local, what business scholars call glocalization. China's market presents unique challenges: a massive population spread across diverse regions, rapid technological adoption, fierce local competition, government regulations, and consumer preferences that can shift quickly. International companies that succeed here often need to fundamentally rethink their business models rather than simply exporting what worked elsewhere. Yet despite the challenges, China remains too important to ignore. It's still the world's second largest economy, with hundreds of millions of consumers moving into the middle class. The potential is enormous for companies that can figure out how to compete effectively. IKEA's bet is that smaller, smarter, and more digitally integrated is the way forward. Whether this strategy succeeds will become clear over the next few years, but the company deserves credit for being willing to make difficult changes rather than stubbornly sticking with an outdated model. As we wrap up this story, it's worth reflecting on what these store closures really represent. At first glance, 7 closures might seem like failure, but look closer and you see a company with the wisdom to recognize when fundamental change is necessary. The massive IKEA warehouses that are closing were symbols of a particular moment in time, when China's middle class was emerging, when suburban expansion seemed limitless, when physical retail dominated. That moment has passed. What's emerging is something different. A retail landscape where digital and physical seamlessly blend, where convenience and experience both matter, where local preferences shape global brands, and where agility trumps scale. IKEA's transformation in China is still a work in progress. The company faces significant challenges ahead, proving that small format stores can be profitable, competing with entrenched e-commerce players, maintaining brand relevance with younger consumers, and navigating China's complex economic and regulatory environment. But by confronting these challenges head-on rather than pretending they don't exist, IKEA is giving itself a fighting chance. The company that revolutionized furniture retail in the 20th century is trying to reinvent itself for the 21st. For the thousands of customers who've bought their first bookshelf, assembled their first desk, or shared meatballs with family at IKEA stores across China, these closures mark the end of an era. But perhaps they also mark the beginning of something new, a more adaptable, more locally attuned version of a global brand. Only time will tell if IKEA's strategy succeeds. But in China's dynamic retail market, standing still was never an option. The choice wasn't between changing and not changing. It was between changing on your own terms or being forced to change by market forces beyond your control. IKEA has chosen to change on its own terms. Whether that's enough remains to be seen. From our studios, good night.